Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be discussing 10 things that you guys should know before you go to Rio. Now this video might come across as a little bit of a warning video, but it's purely to do with the safety of yourself and just being aware of the differences of going to Rio. Rio is an incredible city. I absolutely loved my time there, but I think I loved it so much just because I took some precautions and was just so aware of my safety when I was there. So here are just a few things to look out for and to remember whilst you're traveling there, just to ensure that you have the best time that you can. I actually spent a month in Brazil traveling around, and Rio was by far my favorite city, so I highly recommend going there. Don't let these things put you off. It is honestly incredible. The city is just so filled with culture, great food, and really lovely people, so make sure it's added to your bucket list if it isn't already. So number one, look and research your hostels before you book them. So it's very important to know exactly where you're staying. There are certain neighborhoods of Rio that are less safe, and you can actually stay in these areas, and I actually stayed in Lapa, which is notorious for being not very safe, but it is also the party district. So we had to research our hostels very well. We found a hostel that had a good location, that had events running, but also had the safety in place for the travelers. Now this is really key because you don't want to be left by yourself in the middle of an area that you don't know at a random time of night, and your hostels and the staff have just sort of left you just because you can get yourself into a situation, especially in these areas. So I would really recommend going for a hostel that runs a lot of events and is in a really great location. I actually stayed at Book's hostel in Rio, and we had the most incredible time there. They had loads and loads of events on. The staff was so helpful. They took us to and from parties. They told us all the events that were going on every single day and gave us all the relevant safety advice and tips to help us during our time there. And I think that they actually made our experience incredible, and that's probably why we had such a good time. Number two, don't carry your real phone around with you. So this phone I'm currently recording on actually never left the hostel in Rio. So I actually brought my old iPhone 7 that literally lasts about 2 minutes when it's charged, but you know what, it did the job. I could still film my vlogs, and to be honest, at that point I didn't need a phone for anything else other than my vlogs and pictures. So I would really recommend just bringing like a dud phone so your real phone doesn't get lost or stolen. Number three, make sure you use Ubers in Rio. Just as a girl just traveling around, I didn't necessarily feel safe just walking everywhere around the city. During the day, it's obviously quite a lot safer, and you can do so if you feel like you want to. But generally our rule of thumb was if it was going to take longer than 5 minutes to walk, then we should Uber. The Ubers are super cheap in Rio, so it wasn't exactly like it broke the bank. It's just purely for safety, and especially at night we didn't go anywhere without either Uber or a local taxi company. Again, this is just purely from a safety standpoint. Being a female traveler, these are just some of the safety precautions that I personally put in place, and it worked very well for us, and it meant that we could get across the city. The city is also huge, so actually getting Ubers isn't a bad idea anyway. It makes you get from point A to B a lot quicker because, as I say, there's so many different neighborhoods of Rio to explore, so it's definitely worth doing, and the Ubers are so cheap, so why not? Number four, now this doesn't just go for Rio, this is probably a very generic one, but just don't bring your valuables to the beach. Now there is like notorious like beach sweeps where gangs sort of run through and like take people's phones and things like that. So it's even more essential that you really don't do that, especially on Copacabana Beach and Ipanema Beach as well. So just be aware. To be honest, when I went to the beach, I didn't even take my phone at all. I took a book and I took my towel and my bikini, and that was it. Just go and enjoy the beach for what it is, the sea, the surf, the fun stuff. Get yourself a caipirinha, go and have a really nice time. Everyone's very friendly there, everyone's very nice. If you want to engage with the beach sellers, then you can. But if not, just grab yourself a drink, go and sit down with a book, and just enjoy the sound of the sea. Number five. Now, I know that a load of you will want to go out, and Lapa is the area to go out, but it is also one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in Rio. So I highly recommend going in a group or with your hostel. At Book's hostel, they actually recommended which club that we go to, and we all went as a big group together, which actually provided us with a lot more safety, and we all got into the venue, nobody got left behind. It was a better system to put in place so that everybody felt like that they were in a safer environment. And therefore we actually had an incredible time in the club, and the club would only be about like 2 to 5 minute walk away from the hostel. Like, we weren't going far, which was quite a good thing that I think the hostel staff put in place, because when you're walking back, obviously you'll be in smaller groups or maybe just in twos. So that's just something to note. So if you want to go clubbing, LAP is your area, but just make sure that you know how to get there and back safely. Number 6 is that I would advise against visiting a favela. Besides the moral standpoint of going around and looking at people's lifestyles in favelas, I think that just from a safety point of view, it's just not wise. Favelas are obviously notorious for being gang run. So if you're going to put yourself in a situation where there's people with guns and knives and things like that, from a logical standpoint, it's not exactly the safest thing to do. You can support the local community in so many other ways, such as buying their goods or contributing towards their arts displays. I just highly recommend trying to find other ways to support the community rather than just taking a favela tour. Number 7, it kind of links into everything that I've already said, but I would kind of recommend going to Rio in a group. So I wouldn't recommend going solo traveling in Rio, especially as a female. Just personally, of my experience, I would not feel safe by myself. Therefore, I think it would be best if you went to Rio in a group. It just means that everyone kind of accounts for each other, everyone knows what each other's doing. We were in a group of 4 girls, and I think any less I might have felt more unsafe, but I think 4 girls was like a really good number, because then at least we had strength in numbers if anything were to happen. And that's just something to think about before you consider going. Number 8 is do go to the street parties, but just don't take your valuables with you. The street parties are honestly one of the funnest things and experiences that I have ever done, and I think that's part of the reason why I love Rio so much. The street parties are quite literally a party in the streets, but they have like performers, they have bars, they have obviously like portaloos, they have stalls, they have more bars, so many bars, and all different types of music. We went to like a techno rave one night, it was so cool. So I highly recommend going to the street parties, they are incredible. But again, they are not particularly safe, because people will, you know, try to mug you because you are clearly a tourist. So honestly, what I did was just take one bank card in the side of my bra here, and that was it. I literally took nothing else with me. Again, I wouldn't even take your dud phone, because like, what's the point? It's probably gonna get taken, so just don't bother. Tip number 9 is that you need to have at least 1 week to explore Rio. It is honestly such an amazing city, and it is so huge, so there's so much to do. I think just trying to see everything on your list, like Christ the Redeemer and Sugarloaf Mountain, it just requires you to be there for at least a week to fully enjoy the city, enjoy the culture, explore the food, explore the attractions, go on some crazy nights out, and just generally have the best time that you possibly can. Rio is an incredible city, so I highly recommend trying to spend as long as you can there. So do factor that in when you're trying to plan your Brazil trip itinerary. And lastly, tip number 5, once you have tried to put all these safety precautions in place, then you can go have fun. This is an insane city, and I don't want it to come across like I didn't have a good time there and that it's too unsafe to go to. It's just about being aware. That's all this is. It's just about putting some precautions in place so that you know what to expect. But after that, you can go and have the best time like I did. I didn't run into any issues whilst I was there. I just took precaution and I just had the most insane time. It was so cool. And yeah, I just absolutely loved it, and I just want you guys to love it too. So skip the heartbreak, skip the loss of phones, and just go and have a really good time whilst taking those precautions. So guys, I hope this video was helpful. If it was, then give me a thumbs up and like and subscribe, and I shall see you for the next video. If you've got any questions about Rio, then do drop them down below. And if you haven't already, then go and check my Rio vlog. It's linked below in the description. I will see you next time. Bye!